Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Dancing with Damage. I'm Ian, your resident philosopher.
And I'm Abby, your resident author.
And today we talk about
Restocks, specifically seasonal restocking, which is a social media trend.
I just heard about this phenomenon today, and I've already sort of forgotten what it is. Abby, please enlighten me.
So, as you know, I dabble in social media in part to sort of take a pulse on society, and in part because it's vaguely entertaining. And one of the trends that seems to be surging in popularity in social media is a seasonal restock. And this means for every single holiday or event that's going on, people are buying themed items to replace things in their house to sort of celebrate this theme. And while I will give you Christmas time as an example is a normal time for people to buy decorations and maybe have some seasonal treats, now it's St. Patrick's Day, Mardi Gras, Easter, Valentine's Day, Independence Day, Arbor Day sometimes, or even just it's a new season, fall, winter, spring, summer. And with each new event, there are some influencers online who take it to an extreme that is super commercialistic, super wasteful, and they buy everything for their house that is new. So it's not simple things like buying a new tablecloth to have friends over and buying a seasonal treat. It's replacing every food item in their house with a seasonal food item, replacing all of their laundry detergent with seasonal items or the right colors, which seems very wasteful because we literally run a resort and I do laundry almost every day. And even I don't run out of laundry detergent every single month. So that's a little extreme, you know?
Yes. I hear you, what you're saying. Now, I know nothing about this. So let's take an example. Easter, you said. We just had Easter.
Yep.
Easter just passed in 2026. So what kind of things would people be buying for this seasonal restocking?
So things that are clearly impractical and shouldn't really be sold, like toilet paper and paper towels that are dyed certain colors, like pink or green or yellow. But the problem is there are blue paper towels that are used in mechanics workshops, but they don't emit dye.
Sorry, I'm laughing at the corgi that's off screen, and he's rolling around like he has just discovered nirvana of smell. Good boy, Archie. Oh boy. Archie, you have to come over here now to show us.
Come here, buddy.
Come here, Archie.
Come here, buddy. Come here.
All right, so here we have
This is Archie.
Archie, and this is proof. Oh, he's very bashful. Were you having a good role and distracting us from Easter seasonal restocking? I was learning about hand sanitizer.
Well, paper towels, but yes, hand sanitizer.
Okay.
They have seasonal hand sanitizer. And these products aren't really useful. I mean, paper towels as an example, if they're full of dyes, A, the dye might come off while you're trying to use the product.
Okay.
But B, it's also very wasteful. $30 for one roll paper towels just because it's colored for a season. And these people probably aren't entertaining often enough to validate changing their whole house. And another problem is they like to use specialized containers to display these items. So what they'll do is they'll decant all of their laundry detergent into just a clear jug and then not label it so you don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. So obviously you can't use it. But the problem is the jugs are never the right size. So you always have some left over in a container. So are you now storing two containers of the same item that was once in one container, or are people just throwing away the excess and the original containers? I don't know. Same with food. A lot of the trends with the food items are to open and unpackage everything. And as you probably know, when you open a food item that is sealed, it starts the expiration clock ticking a little faster. So they'll put cookies in these containers that are going to go stale within a couple days. And they're not properly sealed containers. Some people leave them open. But again, not all of the food item will fit in this fancy container. So now they have the original packaging and half of the food left over. And again, are you storing it twice or are we just throwing things away? So it's very wasteful. It's super capitalistic. And I just don't know what to do about it.
So I have two questions for you, Abby, before I shell out some philosophy on this issue. Because, of course, I am your resident philosopher, and always we view life through the binoculars of the social blueprint. It is our bird-watching apparatus that allows us to see what's really going on in the trees. I've done this before, eh? And I think last episode I had a telescope. For some reason, I really wish I had magnified vision, I guess.
We've said he wants to be a pirate, so our
That is a good link. So I have a question, Abby. So you've seen some people on the internet promoting this and activating this in their own lives. Let's take Easter again for an example. You've described some items people would buy. How much do you think that would cost, very roughly, an average person to accumulate that for the holidays to meet the standards of what some people are promoting?
From what I have seen, it's about $200 to $300 for a haul of items. And this happens once every 2 to 5 weeks.
My follow-up question was how many times a year? She said 2 to 5 weeks, and I have to take 52 weeks and divide it by 2 and by 5. That's not happening. So Abby, how many holidays do you think a year? If it's 5 weeks, let's take an average. Let's say once a month.
Yeah.
So 12 times a year, you're saying $300. So what is that? $2,400 to whatever, right? So let's just say about $2,500. Fair?
Fair.
Is that? I haven't looked into this. Is that a fair?
That is fair.
Okay. And that's not tax deductible. Those are non-essential items. So the way I would see it, therefore, is like a person who drives a car off a cliff. What are some things wrong with driving a car off a cliff, Abby?
Death.
Okay, bodily harm to the driver. That's number one.
Wasting a vehicle, I guess.
Number two, that's right. There is the cost of that vehicle that's going to get wrecked.
Potential damage to the environment.
Sure, it could be seen as that. I was going to go for more like
You could land on something.
you could, like, hopefully the cliff is not heavily populated. But, you know, emergency crews have to come in and repair all that. So those are like the resources you're talking about. So I see it like that because if you look at what you're describing, I also see three major flaws that jump out at me. Number one, we have wasteful spending, the cost of the car. You're saying $2,500 a year. That is a significant cost if people are only making, you know, that much a month or, you know, thereabouts after taxes. Number two, we talked about damage to the environment. You're describing things that are one-time use. They're going to be wrapped up in plastic. They're going to have plastic components. They're going to need to be shipped from overseas, etc. You're describing things with dyes that are going to leach very negative things. And to produce products like that often has a high carbon footprint. And that reminds me of the emergency crews that have to go clean up the car, the wreckage at the bottom of the cliff. But number three, and this is the most, perhaps the very worst one, because it's the first one you said about the car, is that what we have here is goal setting for a goal that, even if fulfilled, will not bring any fundamental happiness, like we talk about in the social blueprint, and won't actually move the person closer to their soul improving or to the purpose of human life, which is to sacrifice for the next generation. And that's like the person in the car who suffers by driving off the cliff and smooshes themselves. That's what I see when you're describing that. What do you say to that?
I agree. And it reminded me of something else. There's a few things that keep popping into my head because I've sort of passively been experiencing this as a phenomenon for the past about year. Yes.
Did I do good philosophy?
You did the best philosophy.
Car philosophy.
A+. So one of the things that gets heavily criticized, and I am inclined to hope that a lot of this is rage bait, because it is rage inducing for several reasons, like you have philosophized. But one of the things that some of the bigger people tend to do is empty out their entire fridge and restock the whole fridge with things like fizzy, sugary drinks, different single-use, prepackaged foods like processed foods, and a lot of candies and treats and sugary things. And it leads people in the comments to say things like, well, do you have another fridge? Is this just your fridge for junk food? If it is not your regular fridge, chances are you will still end up wasting most of it. But B, if this is your regular fridge, either that means you are making your family eat carcinogenic, glucose, fructose, like super chemically bad for you foods as a staple because there's no room in your fridge to have regular nutritious foods, not a vitamin in sight. Or the opposite, this is your regular only fridge in your house because most humans can only really have the space and can only really afford to plug in one fridge in their house. It's sort of a common thing. If you have two, good for you. But it's always in their kitchen. It's always in a nice house. So if it is their regular fridge and they are taking some of that stuff out to make room for things like vegetables and fruit or meats or fish or other relatively healthy things, that means they're immediately throwing away and wasting all of this climate controlled temperature things. And they all have to be the same color. Like for St. Patrick's Day, everything was green in the fridge. They bought all the green stuff. But unfortunately, again, when you're doing a theme, which is usually based on a color or, you know, things shaped like items, like in Halloween, a lot of bats, a lot of pumpkins, a lot of ghosts, normally that food is very bad for you and not something that should be your primary source of, I say nutrition with quotes. It's not really nutritious, but your primary source of sustenance.
So what you said has put me in mind of two different chapters in the Social Blueprint. Let's start with the latest in time first. But before we get into that, first of all,
Come here,
hello,
buddy.
Gray.
Hi.
Let's meet our special guest, Gray, a Belgian Shepherd who does not believe in seasonal restocking. He even keeps the same wardrobe all year round. He believes in recycling water by washing our faces for us. And he believes in smiling as a way to be happy all the time.
He is the happiest dog.
So if I may, Gray, I was just going to ask,
Can you sit down, please?
oh dear,
Can you sit down, please?
looks like we've got
Can you please sit down?
a pretty serious
sit
case of
down?
the licking. We're actually not distressed. We're just talking about things that
Are distressing.
could be distressing. Do you think we need protecting from this subject? He's like, yeah, I don't know if this is healthy to talk about. Rage bait is a serious issue. And like, I will protect you with my fur.
Good job.
thanks.
You're
Thank-
so good, buddy.
Let's see if we have trained him at all. Gray, go lie down. Go lie down. That would be a no. Instead of lying down, he has defied me. Anyway, I guess we'll just crack on, if that's all right with our canine friend. Yeah, you can continue, but you have to be wise. You said you were like a philosopher, so I'm just gonna stand here now. Hope that's
Hey,
good.
go
for-
lie down. Go lie down, buddy.
I don't know.
Thank you.
Okay,
Good
I'll-
boy. Go lie
I'll
down.
listen to you, Mom.
Thank you.
You're really nice.
Thank you,
But-
buddy.
but
Good job.
Don't get too upset about all the internet stuff, okay?
I promise.
Actually, I want to go this way. This is the way I wanted to go.
Chaos, utter chaos. Normally, we film when they are in another room having a nap, but today, they are awake.
That's right. And if you like the dogs being involved in our Dancing with Damage episodes or other episodes, because we have a few playlists, let us know, because as you can see, it's very easy to make that happen. Before I launch into the two chapters that your comments reminded me of, I will ask you a question. Abby does love certain holidays and celebrating them in, I think, a tasteful way. But Abby, if you could add one more holiday to the roster of things that you and I celebrate, what would it be?
A real holiday that we don't really celebrate, or a holiday I've made up?
Dealer's choice. But I think it'd be more interesting if it's an established holiday. It's just that you and I normally let it pass unmarked.
So we have previously celebrated Christmas together. We have celebrated Valentine's Day, and we did celebrate Easter.
Yeah, I think we hit all the major ones: Thanksgiving, Halloween. Is there any other major ones you would add if you could?
We don't participate in alcohol, so a lot of the other holidays generally are about partying, as it were.
Hold on, I thought this was.
It's tea.
Oh,
I mean,
this whole time I've been showing them my ID to buy tea for nothing.
maybe for things like Canada Day,
Okay.
it would be fun to go out to a fireworks celebration that is already pre-established.
Okay.
And maybe making a specialized dessert like a cake or a cheesecake or some brownies that are very festive.
Won't it be hard to bake those items just in the light of the fireworks? It'll be too dark. I don't know if that's going to work.
I'll have to do it beforehand, but that might be fun because we obviously celebrate Canada Day. We're very proud to be Canadian, but it's more of a stay-at-home, cozy affair. But maybe it would be fun this year to leave our nest and go to where the people are.
Could you bake brownies if I blindfolded you and you had all the ingredients laid out beforehand?
Probably not.
Do you think they would be edible?
Probably not.
I really want. That would be an interesting baking show, because there are a lot of baking shows that are like, do your recipe will judge it, maybe that's too easy. Maybe the trick is lay out your ingredients, we're going to blindfold you, and then we'll see what comes out. Although the only little hitch is there are some dangers involved with this potentially. Can you imagine putting something in the oven and you can't see?
It's not even just that. If you bake, you will know. You wash your hands an average of every 1 to 3 minutes. I go through so much soap because every time you touch anything, you have to wash your hands again before you can continue handling food. So can you imagine being blindfolded and having to walk over to the sink and trying to safely wash your hands and then get back to your food item and continue to prep it without compromising the sanitation?
Okay, well, for now, I won't produce any Netflix series about that, but I will say this about holiday restocking. So first, Abby was talking about rage baiting, so trying to show a video of something that was so outrageous and so obviously badly planned or poorly judged that it inspires viewers to comment on obvious flaws. This reminds me of The Paper and the Parcel, which is at chapter 27 of The Social Blueprint, 123.
Page 123.
Page 123, not the 123rd version of The Social Blueprint. We have not gotten there yet. And in that chapter, it talks about how humans have an innate desire to be both needed and wanted, to fulfill the human proximity component of love, that's being wanted. So it occurs to me, Abby, that these people you're describing who post outrageous things to get attention, it also reminds us of children that act out just to get attention. And we see that constantly as a mechanism of very young or in older people, damaged people. And that's because these individuals have that instinct to have people pay attention to them, to feel wanted in society. And that's the gratification they're looking for through creating this, what you call rage bait reactions.
You hit the nail on the head with that. I really like that comparison you made. I felt that was strong.
Nice. I was trying to think of a joke of like hitting the nail on the head, hitting the head on the nail. No, that would be painful. Okay, don't do that. Stick with what I said before. Much more wise. And the second thing is, in terms of sort of creating these expectations or creating goals or mini goals in your life, it reminds me a lot of The Blacksmith, and I think it's called The Blacksmith and the Sword. Do you think I'd know? Yes, The Blacksmith and the Sword. And this is chapter 7 of The Social Blueprint. It's page 32. And it talks about, we went over it in another episode, but I just want to refresh it here. The argument in this chapter is that the purpose of human life can be observed when you look at the evolutionary progression of vertebrates and how they became more and more willing to make sacrifices for the next generation as they evolved, coming from fish who don't do much. Actually, Abby and I were learning about salmon the other night. Basically, they'll spawn and then they...
That's very dramatic, but accurate, yes.
Biology. So that's not a lot of sacrifice for the next generation versus, of course, your elephants and your gorillas and your humans who are going to spend a lot of their own energy helping the next generation. And we established that that shows that the purpose of a human life given to us by evolution, like the blacksmith of our lives that crafts the different creatures of the world through evolution, is to show the most love of any creature for the next generation. And it reminds me, therefore, what you're talking about is like someone who is climbing a mountain. Yes, a high mountain. You were not expecting this. Before it was a cliff, but now a mountain. Today is all about topography. Hope you wore your safety helmet. So anyway, it is like a person climbing a mountain. You approve of this.
I deserved an applause. That was pretty good.
Ah, but in the mountains, no one can hear you clap.
If you clap alone in the mountains, did it make a sound?
Actually, it'll clap back.
No, it was the tree fall in the forest and no one's there to hear it.
No, but it's like an echo. Isn't clapping back a slang for insulting someone?
I think it's for returning an insult. I think it's if someone insults you and you throw a jab back at them. You clap back.
Yikes.
You fight back.
So don't clap in the mountains, you will get clapped back by, again, topography. So it's like a person climbing a mountain because let us say the person is at the base of the mountain and they're given the goal to reach the top. Just as our vertebrates were given a certain goal to fulfill the purpose of life, someone is given a goal to reach the top of the mountain. But they're going up the mountain a bit and they have a sore foot, or they have a cut on their leg, or they have back pain, or something's impeding them. And so rather than do that, they go to the side of the path and they create a little game. They set up some sticks and try and knock the sticks over with a stone, or they try to arrange leaves in a certain pleasing way, perhaps a wreath or a decorative lei. And as people come by and walk up the path, the person at the side of the path says, "Look what I've done. See how I've knocked over my sticks or arranged my leaves." But indeed, this will give them no solace, because they have just distracted themselves from the true path to the goal at the top of the mountain. And even though it is hard, it is important to follow it to achieve fundamental happiness. And that's argued in the social blueprint. And so what I'm saying is, when you're describing someone who creates these sort of illusionary goalposts, they're like the person at the side of the path who's just creating smaller, easier to achieve goals in order to avoid the painful ascent of the true goal. And the back pain and the blisters are like damage of this generation and generations before too, that make it really tempting to pull over and do something to distract yourself. But you see the problem for that person.
That actually brings me back to, the topic of celebrities that we covered.
Hold on, did I do more good philosophy?
The goodest philosophy.
You see? I told you.
But it's interesting because often people associate heavily with famous people to try to emulate or to take some of the status.
I think I spilled coffee on my tie.
That has happened before.
Yeah.
But as an example, a very popular TV show, someone might want to wear a shirt with a quote from that TV show. I am guilty of this for the IT crowd. But to take it to another level, they might have pants and a shirt and a jacket all sporting that TV show, and they might have decals on their cars, and they might have posters in their rooms, and they might eat food or have a coffee mug that is branded for this TV show. So a lot of their life and everything about them that you see them interacting with remind you of this phenomena, this social phenomena. And that is sort of a way that damage can make you think, maybe I'm not interesting enough to receive social acceptance and love. So I am going to immerse myself as much as possible by talking about and living and visibly showing this TV show or thing people like. So they subconsciously attribute these traits to the person in hopes that instead of worrying about if they're worthy of love, that someone will love the show enough that they by default love them. And it can be taken a step further because you mentioned, which made me think of this, the idea of someone pulling off to the side of the path to create sort of their own fake goalposts that don't really achieve any goal. And overspending and hyperconsumerism to me is sort of like the next level of that phenomenon where people try to emulate something to apply the positive traits to themselves. And instead of worrying about their personality or trying to forge positive social relationships and being a likable, loving person who shows and receives love, they're trying to use consumerism to buy love and affection. So I feel like these restocking videos and all of these different trends where people can't just buy one of something, like Labubus. They were like $80 for this terrifying looking doll. I don't see the appeal, but I can understand that someone might like it. But there are people who bought hundreds of them in hopes of getting the one they wanted because it's in a blind bag, so you don't know which one you'll get. Or there are people like Nido. It's a stress ball that in the news very recently, they sold out. Apparently in 9 weeks, the first 9 weeks of 2026, they sold out of the entire year's inventory because TikTok decided it was popular. And now little kids who would want one of these as a way to help self-regulate in school as an acceptable toy or something that they might enjoy. They're made for children, essentially, predominantly. And these adults are buying up tens of hundreds of them. I saw a video that was on a news site where this woman showed 54 of them. She just kept showing one after the other, and you can't use that. So I feel like this hyper-consumerism is the next level of associating with a celebrity or a TV show or, an exciting event to try to make yourself feel like you deserve the love and attention that you crave because you're associating with this thing and you're trying to pull from the clout. But to now saying, I'm just going to buy whatever people seem to be liking. And if I have enough of it, people will like me because I have this thing. And because they like the thing I have, by default they will like me. And it's so sad.
It is sad, just like those people at the side of the path. And remember, we talked about in a previous episode a celebrity. What that meant was someone who went out into the street and was mobbed. I had said mugged in the last episode. Being mobbed and being mugged, I suppose, could happen at once, but very different definition. And that's what you're describing. You're describing grabbing people's attention through a capitalistic strategy, but there are very few shortcuts in life. And I want to leave with this, because some of you may be saying, well, Ian and Abby, you're talking about this mountain and how there's one path and one goal. But what if someone's purpose of life is to pull off to the side and just enjoy themselves? What's so wrong with that? And I don't know if we covered it in the first 40 episodes or so, so I'll just quickly refer you to chapter in The Social Blueprint, The Goat and the Veterinarian, or The Veterinarian and the Goat. I'm not sure who came first, the goat or the veterinarian. I guess it's whoever crossed the street first. But that makes no sense. But anyway, in that parable, a farmer comes into a vet clinic with his goat who's having some trouble. And all the farmer sees in the waiting room are cats and dogs and their owners. And the farmer says, well, how can this veterinarian help my goat? My goat looks so different. It has horns, hooves, a beard.
The beard is very strong.
Really weird eyes, surprisingly, for a mammal. But we don't get into that. We don't judge. But they're weird. And then the veterinarian comes out and says, nay, nay. Even though cats and dogs and goats all look different, on the outside, these are but superficial differences. And if you had seen the inside of an animal, as I have, friend farmer, you would know that deep within ourselves, we share more in common than we have differences. And so what I'm getting at, Abby, is because the purpose of human life is something that's so deep and fundamental in a person, it's not superficial like hair color, eye color, clothing, skin color, nail polish or not nail polish. These are all just superficial things that don't connect us. But things that are deep within us, like the purpose of life, are more likely to be extremely similar, just like the heart of a goat and the heart of a cow or the heart of a dog will all look very, 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 very similar. Maybe difference in sizes a little bit, but generally same thing. And so what I'm getting at is do not be distracted. This is a socially damaged idea that the purpose of human life is tailored or nebulous. That's just justification and an excuse for damage to run rampant and allow people to create false goals in their lives. But this leads to fundamental unhappiness, and we don't want this. And that's why the Social Blueprint exists, to make humanity a happier species than it is, and then it's heading towards that path. So I hope that resonates with you, and that you, even if you don't agree that we've got the right purpose of human life, we hope you agree that there is one out there, and we hope you keep looking for it, even if you don't.
Agree with ours.
Like the blacksmith beating the sword half to death, because that's the story of the purpose. Anyway, Abby, that was a great topic. Anything else you wanted to mention before we sign off?
Just know that damage is the force that makes you feel like you need to pull, I'm going to use the word clout again, from something else to make yourself seem more important. As a human, you're inherently important. You have a great capacity for good and for love. And while it's okay to like something and in a small way appreciate it, like a phone charm or a lunch pail or a shirt, one thing, you
can have one thing.
Well, no, I mean, in a small
one thing.
Some people have a small one or two things referencing a show or a movie or a location that they're very fond of. And that is a reasonable amount of items because it's a memento. It pulls fond memories. It doesn't clutter your house. It's not hoarding. It's not wastefulness. It's a small enough number of things that you can truly value and appreciate and hopefully use them. And that's okay. But if you start accumulating mass amounts of something, usually, I don't think it's too bold to say that is a symptom of damage. And it is internally you craving bonds of love and affection so much that you are trying to outsource the reasons why you deserve that. But you inherently do. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that can help you recognize that in yourself. Because as we say, recognizing you have damage is the first step and helps you start to combat it. So if you recognize that it might not be healthy to have mass amounts of things or do this restocking where you buy lots of things and throw it all away and a lot of it is bad for you, it might help you to sort of lessen that impulse. So hopefully that might help somebody out there.
For sure. And that last thing you said actually reminds me, Abby, of some people are firearms owners and they will keep perhaps a rifle for defense of their property or to hunt or whatever it is. But you might never know they have the rifle. They just have it for its intended purpose. And then some people, as soon as you meet them, or it's stickered all over their car, or it's the first thing you see when you walk into their house, just dozens of firearms, and they're hanging off the walls, and they're all over their clothes, and it's all they talk about. And one of their teeth is a bullet. I think I'm thinking of Mad Max at this point. But you see, that is sort of the difference between having something for a useful purpose and having something in order to send a message to the world or to intimidate or to, as Abby says, be a magnet for attention and praise. We instinctively know the difference between the two. An exaggerated thing that isn't meant to bring comfort to the user. It is simply meant to be a billboard to the world. And so certainly those are things to be avoided, and those are damaged practices for the reason we've mentioned. So that was a great talk. Abby, I did not know anything about that. I may not know anything about it ever again, but that was a lot of fun. So thanks for tuning in.
Have a great day.